Joe Biden's student relief debt is going to help more white people buy homes and raise families than it is going to help black people out of poverty in the ghetto. Proving once again Joe Biden don't give a damn about minorities.
He did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, super predators.
Well, now Joe Biden called MAGA semi-fascist. So Joe Biden is still in a name-calling business.
For having me. Let's start with what the president said at a fundraiser tonight, just before his rally. The president likened what he called extreme MAGA philosophy to semi-fascism.
And Don Lemon know about fascists. He a big one. Oops, I meant that's the wrong F word. Next!
In 2020, you and 81 million Americans voted to save our democracy.
What exactly is semi-fascism, Kareem?
And it's not hyperbole. Now you need to vote to literally save democracy again.
How in the hell they saved democracy? And ever since Joe Biden been in office, it's been a dictatorship.
Look, I believe America's at a genuine inflection point. It occurs every 6 or 7 generations in world history.
Yeah, black people end up switching parties every 60 years. It's about time black people switch back to Republican.
So let me just first say this tonight, what you heard from this president, Don.
Some more divisive rhetoric.
You must choose. Will we be a country that moves forward or backward?
The American people have a choice in front of them, and the president laid that out very clearly, very powerfully tonight.
Will we build a future or obsess over the past?
When you look at what Democrats are doing and what they are delivering and what they have done, Don, in less than 2 years, which is lowering costs on prescription drugs.
Well, everybody not on prescription drugs, but everybody on chicken wings and hot dogs and all of that shit went up 45%. Next! Besides, we talking about fascism, not prescription drugs.
They are, Karine. I want to get to all those things. With all due respect, we have a short time. I'm going to get to all those things, but if you'll answer my question, we can get to those things. What exactly is semi-fascism?
Because we already know what high blood pressure pills are.
Don, I was just about to get to your question.
Okay.
I really was. But
right.
I want to, you brought me on the show for a reason.
Yeah, bitch, for content.
And I have to talk about what the president talked about tonight.
I just have limited time with you. I just want to make sure we get all the answers.
By having this back and forth, we're actually taking away from the time.
No, by your gay ass avoiding the damn questions, your ass is wasting time. Next!
Will we be a nation of unity, of hope, of optimism? Not a nation of anger, violence, hatred, and division.
So here we go. So what we are seeing from Republicans and what we have seen from Republicans these past several years is that they are attacking our democracy. They are taking away our freedom.
And how was that? I haven't saw no Trump supporters making no racist citizens arrest.
And they are trying to put on the chopping blocks Medicare and Social Security. That's what we are seeing.
So they are semi-fascists and niggas are something else.
Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans have made their choice.
And it's being done. If you look at the Republican Party, it's being done by this element, this MAGA element of the Republican Party.
To go backwards, full of anger, violence, hate, and division.
You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that.
I would go down the list, but I don't have enough video for that. Next! So MAGA is locking people up and taking their prescription drugs.
And that's what we are trying to prevent. That's what you heard from the president today, that choice, what we're doing for Democrats, because that's why I said that to you. I started off because I wanted to show what we're doing and what we have done.
What? Fuck up the country while Republicans try to fix it?
This fall, there'll be a choice between these two visions.
And also make that contrast, because that's what we're seeing from Republicans, this MAGA element. And we're going to continue to make that choice. We're going to make sure that we're making it very clear for the American people. And that's what the president did tonight in Maryland. And he's going to continue to do that across the country.
Separate the country by calling half the country semi-fascist racists.
And the whole notion of the burn it all down politics of MAGA Republicans continues to be a drumbeat.
Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that.
White people now, niggas then.
Folks, Ignorance knows no boundaries. But we never gave up. We never gave in. And we're delivering for the American people now.
Yeah, delivering some high-ass taxes.
And now, even our critics have been forced to acknowledge real progress.
Which one? I haven't heard one. Next!
And we have to start calling his supporters racist as well.
Even the black ones?
They're the PLO to Hamas. They're a dime store front for a terrorist movement.
Even worse than Joe Biden leaving Afghanistan all them damn weapons of mass destruction?
The Republican Party is basically a domestic terrorist cell at this point.
I guess Donald Trump is the new Bin Laden of MAGA.
They're starting to look like the jihadists.
Not a political party. They're a white nationalist movement. They're a fascist threat to our nation. That's not hyperbolic. That's academic.
And it's also stupid as shit.
Party of dupes, party of knuckleheads, party of weirdos, party of freaks.
It has become an authoritarian embracing cult.
Well, I'm going to need my Kool-Aid then.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Damn, y'all finished? Did y'all leave anything out?
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
And you can't have a Democrat diss video without that bitch Hillary Clinton. Next! The Democrats want to help the poor, but they actually helping the middle class.
People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness.
And they helping the middle class illegally.
Using the authority Congress granted the Department of Education, we will forgive $10,000 in outstanding federal student loans.
He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power.
In addition, students who come from low-income families, which allowed them to qualify to receive a Pell Grant, will have their debt reduced $20,000.
That has to be an act of Congress.
Well, somebody needs to tell that shit to Joe Biden.
I understand not everything I'm announcing today is going to make everybody happy.
Hell no, not no black people that didn't go to college that's going to have to pay for this.
Is not a right, it's a privilege.
But I believe my plan is responsible and fair.
But you take on responsibilities, including student debt.
I think from an equity and an inflationary standpoint, it's not the best use of taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, what about single mothers, homeless veterans, and niggas that owe child support? It seems to me that would help out the black community more than student debt.
It focuses the benefit on middle class and working families.
Here, there are a lot of people who will benefit who appear to have relatively low or moderate incomes today, but will have very high expected future earnings.
And leave out the people, as Joe Biden daddy say, just need a little breathing room the fuck out.
Let's just celebrate.
If you're a working class person who never went to college, you're not going to get any of this $300 billion it's going to cost the government.
Because understand, 20 million Americans got the news today.
Next! When Elizabeth Warren asked this, she almost got the shit slapped out of her.
So you're going to pay for people who didn't save any money, and those of us who did the right thing get screwed.
No, it's not anybody got screwed. When we started,
of course we did.
He was waiting patiently.
That they will never have to pay another nickel.
My buddy had fun, bought a car, went on vacations. I saved my money. He made more than I did.
You must not be middle class. Next!
All this means people can finally crawl out from under that mountain of debt to get on top of their rent and their utilities.
But I worked a double shift, worked extra. My daughter's worksheet is 10, so you're laughing.
I don't think that father felt your jovial attitude.
And what about the criticism from taxpayers who say, you know, I paid for my loans? I mean, there's some people who don't want to extend that help to other people because they went through such hard times paying for college themselves.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. We did the right thing and we get screwed.
That's what the president reminds us so much of in bringing this country together, that someone doesn't have to do bad for you to do good, that everybody can do better together.
I appreciate that.
Let me get the fuck out of here before I slap the shit out of an Indian and they call me racist.
This is effectively a bailout for a super corrupt educational system.
if I can talk in my black liberal voice. Black people are left behind due to the discrimination and the politics against blacks succeeding in the society that they live in and what we call America. In my black liberal voice.
The Harvard endowment has $60 billion. The Yale endowment has $40 billion. If you want to give student debt relief, you should penalize the people who have benefited from this very corrupt system.
Right. And in my black liberal voice, if you want to give reparations to black people, all you got to do is punish the people and tax the people that benefited from it. The Democrats.
Not ask plumbers in Ohio to subsidize the life decisions of college-educated young people.
And not ask Republicans to help you pay for fucking up the black race. Wait a minute. Next! This is a black liberal skit. I'm sounding too much like a conservative.
Primarily young people who are going to make a lot of money over the course of their lifetime anyway.
Back to my black liberal voice. Joe Biden should give all black people that was connected to slavery 40 acres and a mule, but it should be updated to a Tesla and a studio apartment.
Thanks, Green. About the student loans, how can the country afford such a massive handout?
If the people not going to pay for it, put an incentive on it. If the person that got their school debt relief make a certain amount of money, they got to pay that shit back.
Yeah, well, Ambassador Rice said that she's happy to have that discussion. I'm happy to have this discussion as well.
If their ass benefited from the school debt relief, ass should be able to get taxed and give it back. Next! Get back to the people who really need it.
Look, if you look at what this president has done, if you look at the end of this coming end of the fiscal year, $1.7 trillion that we have deduced, brought down the deficit. That matters. That matters.
What the hell that got to do with paying for rich white kids to go to school? In my black liberal voice.
And if you look at the Inflation Reduction Act, it's going to add another $300 billion. It's going to bring down the deficit again.
But you can bring it back up with another tax, stupid.
And you might spend $300 to $900 billion extra. So you can do that and not.
But here's the thing.
Or here's a lie.
Here's the thing. What we are trying to do here, we are doing this responsibly.
According to who? Ain't this bill supposed to go through Congress first?
You heard directly from the president. This is something that is going to be important for middle class Americans. When you think about 90% of the folks who are going to actually benefit from this are making $75,000 or less.
And don't forget, 90% of them is white too. In my black liberal voice.
Here's a lot about how much it might cost, it might not cost. Who is paying for this?
She know, but if that bitch tells, she fired.
What we are saying is the work that this administration has done, the work that the Democrats in Congress has done is actually there, and you see that the 1.7 trillion deficit reduction that you see is going to benefit us.
How in the hell is school debt gonna benefit a nigga like me? You talking about buying rich kids houses and helping them raise families while I'm in the hood ducking bullets and niggas. Ain't that a bitch? What kind of fair shot and opportunity and equality is that?
In being able to do something for the middle class, to do something for the middle class. This is about doing something for people who make less than $125,000, $1.7 trillion.
And damn the people making under $20,000 a year. Let them pay for the rich kids.
That's what we've been able to do.
But when you forgive debt, you're not just disappearing debt. So who is paying for this?
And then I'll give you the second part.
Bitch, hold on. You haven't gave us the first part yet.
So we are doing this in a smart way. We're doing this in a way that's going to be effective. We're doing this in a way that keeps to the president's promise on giving people who need some breathing room.
Wait a minute, ho. That sounds like the first part. Ain't that a bitch?
Who needs to bring the room? I just laid out for you. No, Peter, I just laid out for you how we're seeing this process and why this matters. Again, I just laid out.
Next! If this bitch got a job next year, she must have got some dick flicks from Joe Biden, and Joe Biden is compromised. Because this hoe is dumb.
Schumer said yesterday that you're, quote, getting closer to using executive authority to cancel up to $50,000 in student loan debt. Can you confirm that? What exactly are you looking to plan to do here in the coming?
You mean my spokesman said that?
I bet Joe Biden don't know their name.
Majority Leader Schumer.
Look, number one, first thing we did was reform the system that was in place that didn't work for anybody.
How you do that?
I am considering dealing with some debt reduction. I am not considering $50,000 debt reduction.
Go big, so when we do it small, it won't seem that big.
But I'm in the process of taking a hard look at whether or not there will be additional debt forgiveness, and I'll have an answer on that in the next couple of weeks.
In my black liberal voice, what about black reparations?
Is this unfair to people who paid their student loans or chose not to take out loans?
Is it fair to people who, in fact, do not own multi-billion-dollar businesses to see why these guys get low taxes? Is that fair? What do you think?
You think it's fair for them to shut down their multi-million-dollar businesses and not get no reparations? You must have forgot. The Democrats also voted on this bill to pass. It was a law. It was nothing illegal about it. Next! And the Democrats also voted on helping the middle class and not the lower class.
According to data from the Federal Reserve, if 10 people are in a room, 4 will have gone to college.
You make a decision as a young adult to pursue an education for a wide range of reasons, including advancing yourself in your career and your salary, etc. And that's proven to work.
That means 6 never got a degree. How will they feel about this use of taxpayer resources?
All this means is an entire generation is now saddled with unsustainable debt in exchange for an attempt, at least, at a college degree.
Not to mention, a recent survey found 47% of Americans who had student debt at one point had completely paid off their loan.
So what do you tell people, generations past, that have actually paid back their debt?
The burden is so heavy that even if you graduate, you may not have access to the middle-class life that the college degree once provided.
As your white privilege didn't cover, in my black liberal voice.
President Biden's plan is not expected to include any back pay for those that have already finished their payments.
Many people can't qualify for a mortgage to buy a home because of the debt they continue to carry.
How about the people that are working so hard to get scholarships to excel? What do you tell them? Don't bother, it's free?
A lot of folks are even putting off starting families because of the cost.
Well, the Democrats say that's what abortion's for. Next!
How about the people that never had the opportunity to go to college? About 12% of the population has student debt. The other 88% have to pay for them.
And most of them lower class will never see the middle class.
And then think about the politics of this. And this is what I find so extraordinary. Average salary in America, $58,000, depending on regions. You're telling these people this is a big problem.
And the rest of the shit going on in your life, not.
Meanwhile, you can't fill up your car. Chicken costs 48% more. And this is at the top of the agenda for the president?
Yeah, because who really care if your kids eat or not?
We've had clients come to us that have said, I've rinsed out a diaper and I've reused it.
Can you imagine? This is manna from heaven for the Republican Party.
I've turned a diaper inside out and I've reused it. Sometimes I've left my child in a diaper for far longer than I should have.
In all these tight races coming into the midterms, this is going to be the issue that they get to campaign on. Why would you do this?
There is no government support in America to help pay for diapers, and many poor families struggle to afford them.
This is a really, really bad idea.
America is the richest big country in the world. Its unemployment rate couldn't be much lower. So why does it have so many people living in poverty?
And so many black people at that. Even though it's more white people in poverty, this is a black liberal talking point. I can say what the fuck I want. Next!
Who is advising Biden? Who are his closest advisors?
Hunter Biden, the crackhead, from what I heard.
What planet are they on? It's not the planet Earth.
It's planet Parmesan cheese. Next!
In America, almost 40 million people are living in poverty. That's nearly 1/8 of the population living on less than $26,000 a year for a family of 4.
And Joe Biden giving money to the middle class that's making $120,000, which is only one person.
The burden is especially heavy on Black and Hispanic borrowers.
Well, black and brown people are not going to benefit. White people are.
So poverty exploded in the suburbs. Now there are 3 million more poor people in suburbs than cities.
In my black liberal voice.
Who on average have less family wealth to pay for it. They don't own their homes to borrow against to be able to pay for college.
And the Democrats want that number to grow. Next! This is a plan to help white kids, not broke kids.
Now it's time to address the burden of student debt in the same way.
Well, it's single mothers that can't pay for food.
Working closely with the Secretary of Education, he's got the hard job, Secretary Cardona. Here's what my administration is going to do to provide more breathing room for people so they have less burden by student debt.
Well, what about the poor kids having less burden with hunger? Next! Why don't you give poor little black and brown kids the same opportunity that you gave rich white students who are still suffering from the effects of slavery? In my black liberal voice. Next! But Joe Biden say, damn them, he gonna look out for the middle class.
Capitol Hill, House lawmakers are once again taking a look at the idea of reparations for African Americans.
And Joe Biden is gonna fix it.
And quite frankly, to fix the system itself, which when we came in, we both acknowledged was broken in terms of, anyway.
Or maybe not. Next! Joe Biden said the same thing about student loan as he said about reparations.
They have reintroduced a bill to study the effects of slavery and develop solutions to bridge the economic, educational, and health disparities between descendants of slaves and white Americans.
Well, Joe Biden canceled that plan to help out the middle class. Ain't that a bitch?
Using the authority Congress granted the Department of Education, we will forgive $10,000 in outstanding federal student loans.
What about outstanding baby daddy child support? Hey, Tom, if I didn't have to pay child support, I can pay my hitman double to do his damn job. Next!
The bill was introduced in 1989 originally, so it's been introduced in every Congress now for more than 3 decades.
For President, I made a commitment. That would provide student debt relief. And I'm honoring that commitment today.
And he said, fuck your reparations tomorrow. Next! That's why niggas are standing in front of the Capitol building waiting and protesting about their reparations.
Today, a coalition of civil rights groups gathered there to call on President Biden to issue an executive order.
Give us a Tesla and a bachelor apartment.
In addition, students who come from low-income families, which allowed them to qualify to receive a Pell Grant, will have their debt reduced $20,000.
That shit is not going to make up for the blood, sweat, and tears my ancestors shedded for this country in my black liberal voice.
We're learning more about the Biden administration's plans for reparations.
Because we already know his plan for rich white kids.
Well, he's supported a study of reparations, which I believe is what's being discussed, and studying the continuing impacts of slavery, which is being discussed in this hearing on H.R. 40, I believe it is.
It establishes a commission to actually study the impact of slavery on African American communities.
Why in the hell you need to study? The liberals talk about it every damn day.
Both of these targeted actions are for families who need it the most. Working and middle-class people hit especially hard during the pandemic, making under
$125,000. And those who making under $20,000 don't really need the help.
And the role that the United States government played in perpetuating these systems that may have impacted black communities negatively.
Especially black people that's been left behind, in my black liberal voice. And Joe Biden know the government is biased.
That's 43 million people. Of the 43 million, over 60% are Pell Grant recipients. That's 27 million people who will get $20,000 in debt relief.
Well, I didn't get no damn Pell Grant, but I did get a donation from Vanessa. And that's better than a student loan because I ain't got to pay it back and I can go buy some weed. Next! Now all I'm doing is waiting on Joe Biden to sign this reparation bill so I can get the rest of my money.
Let me ask you, reparations. The House held a panel this week. Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, talked about Biden's support for reparations, but she stopped short of saying that Joe Biden would sign the bill if it got to his desk.
And he continues to demonstrate his commitment to take comprehensive action to address the systemic racism that persists today.
What do you make of that?
It was a really telling moment. What I make of that is that White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki wanted to be cautious on this topic.
So she circled back with nothing.
But it's a topic that especially African-American voters and Black women who were key, integral to President Biden winning this election. And they are watching this closely and wanting this to happen.
Now, the challenge with actually passing it, of course, really lies in a disconnect between what representatives would like to ultimately see this commission achieve.
This is not saying that people are going to get checks in the mail tomorrow. This is saying that there's going to be a study on reparations.
Bitch, I do not need no damn study. I need my damn reparations. I need my 40 acres and a mule updated.
Some are nervous or skeptical of using perhaps taxpayer dollars to fund direct payments to African Americans.
Nearly 45% can have their student debt fully canceled. That's 20 million people who can start getting on with their lives.
And my broke ass is not in the category of neither one of them. And I want the same thing the middle class and them damn students want. I want my debt erased too so I can start all over. And I don't owe no damn $20,000.
Vice President Biden is on the record saying that he would support something like that. So I think it's really telling that she didn't want to go as far to say that he would support this specific bill.
Because it involves Black people getting what they deserve, in my Black liberal voice.
So I think this is a place where we're really going to have to watch closely what happens. This is a bill that's been moving through Congress for a while now. And I think now that Democrats have so much power, you have African-American people, African-American leaderships saying, why can't we focus on this issue?
Because niggas not important. White rich kids are.
Biden's student loan forgiveness plan, it's already become a hot issue on the trail. And we saw earlier in the program that there's a divide even within the Democratic Party.
We know that African Americans are not being treated equally in this country. We know that there are economic consequences to the institutional racism that Black people have faced in this country.
For that amount of money, you could fund free pre-K for every 3- and 4-year-old for 10 years.
Speaking of school, Sharon sent my son a box of school supplies. He gonna be all right with school supplies until his ass graduate college. Thank you, Sharon.
The federal government must account for its ongoing role in perpetuating, supporting, and upholding white supremacy.
I wonder, do that bitch have a problem with student debt? Probably not, because her student debt was erased.
You do a lot more good for poor people, communities of color, and the underprivileged by doing pre-K.
All of the things, all of enslavement's evil offspring, from lynchings to land loss, to police violence, mass incarceration, Jim Crow, all of the above.
And don't forget about the 94 crime bill.
And that is separate and apart from any other race in this country. Black people being held in bondage, enslaved for years in this country, that hurt generations of African Americans.
You could forgive all medical debt, which unlike student debt is not freely entered into.
Missouri Democratic Congresswoman Cori Bush says for generations, the country has systematically disenfranchised African-American families.
When white soldiers came back from fighting abroad, they were given housing preferences and education subsidies. My grandfathers, Ulysses and Clifton Blakeney, were denied those benefits.
Bitch, you got your student loan debt erased and I was denied my reparations.
And this study, people think, will be integral to trying to right some of that wrong. So I think we're going to have to really watch the White House and continue to press them on their stance on that bill.
And make up for the lost time for the harsh sentences due to the 94 crime bill and my Black liberal voice.
So the Democrats, I'm a progressive. I want to help folks, but I think this is terrible
policy, and so is reparations. But reparations will help more Black people in need, more poor people. I'm pretty sure the ancestors of slaves is not as many as people that owe student debts.
It is long overdue. Kathy Masaoka says descendants of slaves deserve the same healing as Japanese Americans who were granted reparations after being forced into internment camps.
What is my party doing with this? They're disadvantaging. I think they're not helping the people that we're here to help, which is poor people and underprivileged communities.
But they helped the Japanese, and the Japanese ain't went through the 10th of the shit black people went through with slavery, in my black liberal voice. Next! Especially with Joe Biden 94 crime bill.
You did that, and they call you super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country.
And they still voted for him.
You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did.
And they should see what you doing. Next! Like everybody should see what Demon X212 by donating to this channel. If I had 2 more people like Demon X212, my baby mama will be a zombie.
I can't imagine a more divisive, polarizing, or unjust measure.
California Congressman Tom McClintock said it would be unfair to punish white Americans today for their ancestors' mistakes.
Wait a minute, ain't that the same thing Joe Biden said?
About one particular answer from Vice President Biden. They asked him about what he said 40 years ago, and they clarified that it was 40 years ago. But they asked him about how he said, I don't really care what happened 300 years ago.
And really don't give a damn about what happened now.
Conversation about how to deal with segregation in schools back in 1975.
One of the major issues for Biden during his campaign has been his support of the 1994 crime bill, which has been widely criticized as racist.
You ain't gotta go back that far. Hey, James Touche. If Joe Biden want to go back to the effects certain policies had on black people, all he gotta do is go back to the 94 crime bill. Because niggas in the hood know, James, the crime bill of 94 was slavery 2.0.
You told a reporter, I don't feel responsible for the sins of my father and grandfather.
I felt the sins of my grandmother when the blood shot up my house. Next! Joe Biden said he don't give a damn.
And let's be honest, he said it was in reference to what happened to African Americans 300 years ago.
I feel responsible for what the situation is today, for the sins of my own generation.
Now, instead of correcting that record or saying that he regrets those comments, he started talking about how we got to play record players to kids.
And I'll be damned if I feel responsible to pay for what happened 300 years ago.
And lock niggas up for a long time for small crimes just over 20 years ago.
You said that some 40 years ago.
And lock niggas up for a long time for small crimes just over 20 years ago.
But as you stand here tonight, what responsibility do you think that Americans need to take to repair the legacy of slavery in our country?
Joe Biden ain't repairing shit. He helping break it.
Well, they have to deal with look, there is institutional segregation in this country.
Yeah, and your student debt loan for white kids proved that. And Larry McCray donation proves he supports this channel and the conservative cause.
And from the time I got involved, I started dealing with that. Redlining, banks, making sure that we are in a position where, look, we talk about education.
Yeah, and how you done nothing for poor black and brown kids and you helped out the rich middle class kids. Ain't that a bitch?
I propose that what we take is those very poor schools, the Title I schools, triple the amount of money we spend, from 15 to 45 billion a year.
That would have been cheaper than student loan debt.
Give every single teacher a raise, to the equal raise of getting out the $60,000 level.
How is that dealing with slavery, Joe?
Yeah, what did you? Psychologists and poor parents need to be, basically what I heard, poor parents need to do a better job of raising their children.
And that's not the first time you said some shit like that either.
Number two, make sure that we bring in to help the teachers deal with the problems that come from home.
So you saying teachers are dealing with students that ain't got no home training. You sure in the hell is bridging the wealth gap with that.
As if just being poor makes you not a good parent. I was highly offended by that as a black woman. I'm trying to keep cool, calm, and collected.
But it's hard being black listening to Joe Biden because Joe Biden don't think blacks that smart.
The other portion is a lot of people don't know how to register. Not everybody in the community, in the Hispanic and the African American community, particularly in rural areas that are distant and or inner city districts know how to get online to determine how to get in line for that.
Trump juice. Joe Biden don't think niggas are smart enough to go get the shot.
The problems that come from home, we have one school psychologist for every 1,500 kids in America.
Well, if the problems come from home, why you didn't put no family therapy inside of the damn Build Back Better 2.0 bill? Next! People are still mad, Joe.
That the vice president couldn't say that the slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, bigotry, institutional racism, and all the hell that black people have caught since our ancestors were brought to this country as slaves on ships is a scourge on this country.
And Joe Biden had a big hand in it, and should have a big hand in paying it back. In my black liberal voice.
It's crazy. The teachers are kind. I'm married to a teacher. My deceased wife is a teacher.
You should stay away from teaching. You seem to have bad luck. Next!
And I apologize for what I said 40 years ago. But no, instead, he just went down this path that made it even worse, Jenkins. It's just an insensitivity. And not only that, right here on the campus of a historically black college.
They have every problem coming to them. We have to make sure that every single child does, in fact, have 3, 4, and 5-year-olds go to school, not daycare, school.
He said those things about African Americans.
We bring social workers into homes of parents to help them deal with how to raise their children.
Because since slavery ended, black parents evidently can't control their kids.
We are the only group that Democrats like that can just, I'm trying not to curse here, who can just take advantage of us and just say any old thing about us, our history, and the legacy of that slavery.
That they strongly fought to uphold.
And it's not just that it's what's happening to African Americans right now. There's a study out that says that it would take 228 years for the average black family to catch up to the wealth of the average white family if we stay on this course, if nothing changes. What that means is that it's never going to happen.
I only see things getting worse for black, brown, and poor kids, and getting way better for rich, white, middle-class kids.
That says that we are never going to have wealth in this country, and that it doesn't matter if your parents have a college degree or whether or not your parents are wealthy or not. If you are black in this country,
no laws have been created to give you a little breathing room.
That wealth that was made on the blood, sweat, the backs of chattel slavery in this country can never be undone.
And liberals gonna make damn sure of that.
And you got a vice president that was totally, just totally numb to that.
And pretty racist towards black parents.
It's not that they don't want to help. They don't know quite what to do.
Beth Roberts know what to do to help me out. And she's been doing it for years.
Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone. Make sure the kids hear words.
I mean, he just didn't care. I don't even know what the answer he gave. That one got to me a lot. You know, just as a black woman.
A kid coming from a very poor school, a very poor background, will hear 4 million words fewer spoken by the time they get there.
This is me as a black woman in America to hear the former vice president who served under the first black president give such an asinine, senseless, and insensitive answer.
There's so much I'm going to go like the rest of them do, twice over, okay?
You need to go like Jeffrey Epstein and get your ass Hillary Clinton.
About the legacy of chattel slavery in this country.
Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
You know, health outcomes, you name it, we have it. And so again, to have the vice president just to just flat out not give a damn about it, because that's pretty much what he said 40 years ago, and he doubled down on it again today.
And tripled down on it with student debt loan.
Everybody should be concerned about that, and especially the black community, to allow anybody to take us just flat out for granted like that. Not even say, you know what, I was wrong about that.
Joe Biden never apologized to the black community, not one time. And tweets that he didn't write don't count. We need more people like Slaphead to go ahead and donate to this channel so we can make more videos. Good looking out, Slaphead, and my boy Marco always coming through with the donations. Good looking out on that, keeping this channel going. Also, I would like to send a shout out to Roger Wood, who's a new donator. Good looking out, Roger Wood. Also, Andy Dillon, longtime donator. Also, Salty Refried Bean, good name. P. Mosley, always coming through. And last but not least, thank you to Deborah Cooney.